On Saturday, September 19th, 1846, a beautiful lady appeared to two children, both from Caen in the French Alps, Maximum Giraud, 11 years old, and Melanie Calva, almost 15, who were watching their herds on the slope of Mount Plano, not far from the village of La Salette. The two children laid down on the grass and fell asleep. How long their slumber lasted is not certain, half an hour perhaps, or 3/4 of an hour, or possibly more. In any case, Melanie suddenly awoke, and called Maximum. "Memim, Memim, let us go and find our cows. I cannot see them anywhere." Of course, being at the bottom of the little ravine, they could not see the meadow where they had left them. Quickly, they climbed the slope opposite Mount Garga. Turning around, they could view the entire alpine pasture land, and were greatly relieved to see that their cows had remained where they had been left, peaceably chewing the cud. Reassured, Melanie began to redescend towards the dried-up fountain to recover her little sack of provisions, before once again watering the cows. Halfway down the grassy slope, she paused, immobilized, frozen with fear. "Memim," she called out, "look at that great light over there." "Where is it?" the boy replied, as he ran and stood at her side. At the very spot where they had slept was a globe of fire, as if, in the children's words, the sun had fallen there. The light swirled, then grew in size, and opening, disclosed within it a woman, seated, her head in her hands, her elbows on her knees, in the attitude of one oppressed with grief. In her fright, raised her hands and dropped her shepherd's staff. Maximum thought only of defending himself. "Keep your stick," he said to her. "I will keep mine, and I will give it a good whack if it does anything to us." Even after she conversed with them, the children could not identify their heavenly visitor. They would simply call her the beautiful lady. The beautiful lady now stood up while the children remained transfixed where they were. She said to them in French,
"Nay, my children, be not afraid. I am here to tell you great news."
Fully reassured by these words, the children hurried to meet her. Her voice, they said, was like music. They approached so near her that, as they later expressed it, another person could not have passed between them and her. The lady also took a few steps towards them. They looked at her and noticed that she did not cease weeping all the time she spoke to them. As Maximum put it, she was like a mama whom her own children had beaten and who had escaped to the mountain to weep. The beautiful lady was tall and seemed to be made of light. She was dressed like women of that region, with a long dress, an apron nearly as long as her dress, a shawl that crossed over her breast and was knotted in the back, and a cap or bonnet similar to the ones worn by peasant women. Roses crowned her head, while another wreath of roses adorned the edges of her white shawl, and a furred garland surrounded her shoes. Over her brow shone a light in the form of a diadem. On her shoulders shone a heavy chain, and from a smaller golden chain hung a resplendent crucifix, with a hammer and pincers placed on either side of the cross, a little beyond the nailed hands. The unknown lady now spoke to the children. We were drinking her words, they would later say, adding, she wept all the time she spoke to us.
"Come near, my children. Be not afraid. I am here to tell you great news. If my people would not submit, I shall be forced to let fall of the arm of my son. It is so strong, so heavy that I can no longer withhold it. For how long a time do I suffer for you, if I would not have my son to abandon you? I am compelled to pray to him without ceasing, and as to you, you take not heed of it. However much you pray, however much you do, you will never recompense the pains I have taken for you. 6 days I have given to you labor. The 7th I have kept for myself, and they will not give it to me. It is this which makes the arm of my son so heavy. Those who drive the carts cannot swear without introducing the name of my son. Those who are two things, which make the arm of my son so heavy. If the harvest is spoilt, it is all on your account. I gave you warning last year with the potatoes, pommes de terre, but you did not heed it. On the contrary, when you found the potatoes spoilt, you swore. You took the name of my son in vain. They will continue to decay, so that by Christmas there will be none left.
The French expression pomme de terre intrigued Melanie. In the local dialect, the word for potatoes was la truffa, whereas pomme for Melanie meant the fruit of the apple tree. Hence, she instinctively turned towards Maximim to ask for an explanation, but the beautiful lady forestalled her.
Ah, my children, you do not understand. Well, wait, I shall say it otherwise.
And she continued her discourse in the local dialect of their region.
If you have wheat, it is no good to sow it. All you sow, the insects will eat, and what comes up will fall into dust when you thresh it. There will come a great famine. Before the famine comes, the children under 7 years of age will be seized with trembling, and will die in the hands of those who hold them. The others will do penance by the famine. The walnuts will become bad, and the grapes will rot.
Here the beautiful lady addressed the children separately, confiding to each a secret. She spoke first to Maximim, and though the little shepherd did not perceive that her tone of voice had changed, Melanie at his side could not hear a word, though she still saw the beautiful lady's lips moving. Then came Melanie's turn to receive her secret under like conditions. Both secrets were given in French. Again, addressing the two children in the idiom familiar to them, the lady continued.
If they are converted, the stones and rocks will change into mounds of wheat, and the potatoes will be self-sown in the land. Do you say your prayers well, my children?
Both answered with complete frankness, "Not very well, madam."
Ah, my children, you must be sure to say them well, morning and evening. When you cannot do better, say at least an Our Father and a Hail Mary. But when you have time, say more. There are none who go to Mass, except a few aged women. The rest work on Sunday, all summer. Then in winter, when they know not what to do, they go to Mass, only to mock at religion. During Lent, they go to the meat market like dogs. Have you ever seen wheat that is spoilt, my children?
"No, madam," they replied.
But you, my child, you must surely have seen some once you went to the farm of coin with your father. The owner of the field told your father to go and see his ruined wheat. You went together. You took 2 or 3 ears of wheat into your hands and rubbed them, and they fell into dust. Then you continued home. When you were still half an hour's distance from Kor, your father gave you a piece of bread and said to you, "Here, my child, eat some bread this year at least. I don't know who will eat any next year if the wheat goes on like that."
Confronted with such precise details, Maximim eagerly replied, "Oh yes, madam, I remember now. Just at this moment I did not remember." Then the lady again, speaking French, as at the beginning of her discourse, and when giving the secrets, said to them,
"Well, my children, you will make this known to all my people."
Now she turned slightly to her left, passed in front of the children, crossed the brook Caesia, stepping on stones emerging from it, and when she was about 10 feet from the opposite bank, repeated her final request, without turning around or stopping.
"Well, my children, you will make this known to all my people."
These were her last words. Meanwhile, the two witnesses were still standing motionless at the spot where their conversation had taken place, when suddenly they realized that the heavenly visitor was already some steps away from them. In their eagerness to join her again, they ran across the brook and were with her in a moment. Thus, In the company of Maximin and Melanie, the lady moved along, gliding over the tips of the grass without touching it, until she reached the top of the hillock where the children, after their sleep, had gone to look after their cows. Melanie preceded her by a few steps, and Maximin was at her right. On reaching the summit, the lady paused for a few seconds, then slowly rose up to a height of 1.5 meters. She remained suspended in the air for a moment, raised her eyes to heaven, then glanced in the direction of the southeast. At that moment, Melanie, who had been standing at the left of the lady, came in front in order to see her better. Only then did she notice that the celestial visitor had ceased weeping, although her features remained very sad. The radiant vision now began to disappear. We saw her head no more, then the rest of her body no more. She seemed to melt away. There remained a great light, related Maximin, as well as the roses at her feet, which I tried to catch with my hands, but there was nothing more. We looked for a long time, added Melanie, to see if we could not have another glimpse of her, but the beautiful lady had disappeared forever. The little shepherdess then remarked to her companion, "Perhaps it was a great saint." "If we had known it was a great saint," said Maximin, "we would have asked her to take us with her."